1. You have to rely on this for 42 hours. Age renewing. The 42 hours of renewal. In the narrow alleys of old Karachi, where the call to prayer blended with the honk of rickshaws and the scent of roasting corn, lived a man named Amir Hassan. At 58, his body told the story of decades, silver streaking his once dark hair, deep lines carved around his eyes from years of squinting against the sun and grief, joints that protested every morning like rusty gates. He was a bookseller, owner of a tiny shop called Nur-e-Kitab near the Empress Market, where dusty volumes of poetry, history, and forgotten philosophy waited for rare buyers. Amir had long accepted that time was a one-way river. He had buried his wife Aisha 10 years earlier, raised his daughter Sana alone until she moved to London for work, and now spent his evenings talking to ghosts in the quiet of his shop. He never expected miracles. Miracles, he believed, were for prophets and poets, not tired shopkeepers. But on a humid January evening in 2026, everything changed. It began with a dream so vivid it felt like memory. A figure cloaked in shifting light stood before him in a vast desert under a starless sky. The voice was neither male nor female, neither old nor young. It simply was. Chosen one, you have carried the weight of sorrow long enough. For the next 42 hours, you must rely on this alone. Nothing else. No food, no water, no medicine, no distraction. Only the vessel I place in your hands. Drink from it 3 times each day, at dawn, noon, and dusk. Speak to no one of what you do. Trust, and your years will fold backward like pages in an ancient book. In the dream, the figure extended a simple clay cup filled with a deep crimson liquid that shimmered like liquid rubies. It smelled faintly of sun-ripened grapes and something mineral, like sea salt carried on wind. Amir reached for it and awoke with a start, heart pounding, the taste of salt and sweetness lingering on his tongue. He laughed at himself the next morning, a ridiculous dream. He was too old for such fantasies. Yet when he opened the shop, something waited on the counter beside the cash register. An unmarked glass bottle, no label, filled with the exact crimson liquid from his dream. Beside it lay 3 small clay cups, each etched with a single word in flowing Arabic script: Tawakkul, trust. Amir stared. No one had entered the shop since closing the night before. The door was still locked from the inside. He should have thrown it away, called a friend, laughed it off. Instead, he uncorked the bottle. The scent rose, grape must, unfermented, blended with the clean bite of salt. He poured a small amount into 1 cup. Dawn had just broken. He drank. The taste exploded across his tongue, sweet, sharp, alive. Warmth spread from his throat to his chest, then outward like sunlight through his veins. For a moment he felt dizzy, as though the room tilted. Then clarity, sharper than he had known in years. He told no one. He followed the instructions exactly. For 42 hours he consumed nothing else. No chai, no roti, no dates, no water from the tap. Only the crimson elixir, 3 times daily. He closed the shop early each day, hung the "back soon" sign, and sat in the dim light among his books, feeling the strangest sensation, his body remembering youth. The first 12 hours were torment. Hunger clawed, his head throbbed, old injuries, a twisted knee from a fall in his 30s, a shoulder damaged carrying Aisha to the hospital, screamed in protest. He paced the shop, recited surahs under his breath, gripped the counter until his knuckles whitened. Doubt whispered, "You are poisoning yourself. Stop this madness." But each time he drank, the fire quieted, strength returned. Not brute strength, but something deeper, like roots finding water after drought. By the second dawn, the changes began. He caught his reflection in the small mirror behind the counter and froze. The silver in his hair had receded, replaced by streaks of deep black. The lines around his eyes had softened, as though an invisible hand had smoothed them. His skin looked tighter, younger. He touched his face in disbelief. On the second noon, Sana called from London. He almost answered. His hand hovered over the phone, but the voice in his memory echoed, "Speak to no one." He let it ring out. Guilt twisted in him, but he drank again instead. The warmth this time was fiercer. He felt it in his bones, as though they were being recast in a forge. His knee no longer clicked, his shoulder moved freely. Energy surged, so much that he laughed aloud, startling a pigeon that had wandered into the shop. By the final dusk, 42 hours complete, Amir stood in the fading light and removed his shirt to examine himself. The slight paunch he had carried for 20 years was gone. Muscles he had forgotten existed stood out under smooth skin. Scars from childhood accidents had faded to faint silver lines. He looked 40, perhaps 38. A stranger stared back from the mirror, a vital, strong stranger with bright eyes and purpose. Amir uncorked the bottle one last time. Only a few drops remained. He poured them into the final cup and drank slowly, savoring. The voice returned, not in a dream, but softly inside his mind. You relied when everything told you to run. You trusted when doubt roared. The years you lost to grief are not erased, they are redeemed. Use this gift wisely, chosen one, not for vanity, not for power, for love, for service, for the light you were always meant to carry. The bottle dissolved into shimmering dust that drifted upward and vanished through the ceiling. Amir stood in silence for a long time. When he opened the shop the next morning, customers noticed immediately. "Amir Bhai, what happened to you?" asked an old regular, eyes wide. "You look like your own son." He smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. "I found something I had forgotten," he said. "Trust." He never spoke of the 42 hours again, not directly, but he began to live differently. He gave books away to students who could not pay. He listened longer to lonely strangers who wandered in. He called Sana every evening and told her stories of her mother she had never heard. He walked taller, laughed easier, loved fiercer. And sometimes, late at night when the city quieted, he would touch the place on the counter where the bottle had stood and whisper, "Thank you." Because he understood now, the true renewal was never just in the body. It was in the soul that had finally learned to rely. And in that reliance, time itself had bowed. In the labyrinthine heart of Karachi, where the Arabian Sea whispered secrets to the bustling streets and the minarets of Masjid Tuba pierced the smog-laden sky like ancient sentinels, lived Amir Hassan. He was a man whose life had been etched by the relentless chisel of time. At 58, his frame carried the burdens of decades, a slight stoop from years bent over dusty tomes, hair threaded with silver like veins of quartz in worn rock, and eyes that held the quiet ache of unspoken losses. His shop, Nur-i-Kitab, nestled in the shadow of the historic Empress Market, was a sanctuary of forgotten knowledge. Shelves groaned under the weight of yellowed pages, poems by Faz Ahmed Faz that spoke of revolution and love, histories of the Mughal emperors that faded into myth, and philosophical treatises on the soul's eternal quest. Amir sold dreams wrapped in paper, but his own had long since withered. He had not always been this way. In his youth, Amir was a firebrand, a student activist in the turbulent 1980s, marching through the streets of Lahore with banners demanding justice. There, he met Aisha, a fellow dreamer with eyes like polished onyx and a laugh that could silence crowds. They married in a simple ceremony under the jacaranda trees, moved to Karachi for Amir's job at a publishing house, and built a life amid the chaos of the city. Sana came soon after, a bundle of joy with her mother's spirit and her father's quiet intensity. But fate, that cruel architect, had other plans. Aisha fell ill. Cancer, the doctors said, devouring her from within like a relentless storm. Amir watched her fade, holding her hand through endless nights in underfunded hospitals, until one rainy dawn she slipped away, leaving him a hollow shell. Sana grew up in that shadow, fierce and independent, eventually fleeing to London for a career in journalism. She called weekly, her voice a lifeline across oceans, but Amir's days blurred into monotony. Open the shop at dawn, dust the shelves, sip endless cups of milky chai from the vendor outside, close at dusk, and retreat to his cramped apartment above the store, where memories haunted like ghosts. He believed in the inexorable march of time. Miracles? Those were for the Sufi saints buried in the shrines of Sewan Sharif, not for a broken bookseller, until that fateful night in January 2026. It started with a dream, or perhaps something more, a vision that bridged the veil between worlds. Amir found himself in a vast, endless desert, the sand cool and silver under a sky devoid of stars, as if the universe had paused its breath. Before him stood a figure, cloaked in robes that shifted like liquid light, face obscured by an ethereal glow. The voice resonated not in his ears but in his bones, timeless and commanding. "Chosen one," it intoned, "you have wandered the desert of despair for too long. Your heart bears scars deeper than the Indus River's canyons, but renewal awaits those who trust. For the next 42 hours, you must rely on this alone. Forsake all else. No bread from the market, no water from the well, no pills for your aching joints, no conversations to ease your solitude. Drink from the vessel I grant you 3 times each day. At the first light of dawn, when the sun claims its zenith at noon, and as dusk paints the sky in farewell hues. Speak to no soul of this trial. Endure, and the river of time will flow backward, renewing what was lost." In the vision, the figure extended a hand, and upon it rested a simple clay cup, brimming with a liquid the color of crushed garnets, shimmering with an inner fire. The air filled with a scent both familiar and otherworldly. Ripe grapes kissed by the sun, mingled with the briny tang of ancient seas and a hint of wild herbs from forgotten mountains. Amir reached out, his fingers brushing the cool clay, and awoke bolt right in his bed, sweat-soaked sheets tangled around him, the phantom taste lingering on his lips like a promise. He dismissed it at first. "Foolish old man," he muttered, rubbing his temples as the muezzin's call echoed through the pre-dawn streets. Dreams were the mind's way of mocking reality. He dressed in his worn kurta, descended the creaky stairs to the shop, and flipped the sign to open. But as he arranged a stack of Urdu novels on the counter, his eyes fell upon it. An unmarked glass bottle, slender and unadorned, filled to the brim of the exact crimson elixir from his dream. Beside it sat 3 small clay cups, each inscribed with elegant Arabic calligraphy. The first with Tawakkul, trust, the second with Sabr, patience, and the third with Shukr, gratitude. His heart stuttered. The door had been locked. No one could have entered. He scanned the room. Nothing amiss. A prank? A hallucination? He uncorked the bottle with trembling hands. The aroma wafted up, intoxicating. Sun-warmed vineyards, salted earth, a whisper of jasmine. It was real. Logic screamed to pour it out, to seek a doctor's counsel. But something deeper stirred, a spark of the young activist who once defied odds. He poured a measure into the first cup, the one marked Tawakkul. Dawn's light filtered through the grimy window, gilding the liquid. He drank. The elixir cascaded down his throat like liquid sunlight, sweet and sharp, igniting a warmth that bloomed in his core and radiated outward. For a fleeting moment, vertigo gripped him. The room spun, colors intensified, sounds sharpened. Then, peace. A subtle vitality hummed in his veins, as if his blood had been infused with morning dew. He locked the shop early that day, hanging the faded closed sign, and retreated to his apartment. The instructions echoed, "Rely on this alone. No food, no water, no distractions." He sat cross-legged on the threadbare rug, surrounded by Aisha's faded photographs and Sana's childhood drawings pinned to the wall. Hunger gnawed soon after, a feral beast in his belly. His mouth grew parched, throat like sandpaper. Old pains resurfaced, the knee he twisted fleeing police during a protest in his 20s, the shoulder strained from lifting crates of books after Aisha's death. He paced, recited verses from the Quran for solace, gripped the edge of his bed until his nails bit into wood. Doubt assailed him like a monsoon. What madness is this? Poison from a stranger's hand? He eyed the bottle, tempted to smash it, but the warmth from the first drink lingered, a quiet assurance. Noon arrived, the sun a blazing orb over the city. He poured into the second cup, sober, and drank again. This time the heat was fiercer, a forge reshaping him from within. It coursed through his limbs, easing the aches, uncoiling the knots of tension. He collapsed onto his bed, sweat beading on his forehead, and slipped into a feverish doze. Visions flickered, Aisha laughing in their first home, Sana's tiny hand in his as they walked to school, the desert figure nodding approval. When he awoke, evening shadows stretched long. Hunger had dulled to a murmur. He drank the third time from the cup of shukr, the liquid now tasting richer, layered with notes of honey and spice. Strength returned, not the brute force of youth, but a resilient flow, like the Indus refusing to dry. The second day dawned with subtle miracles. Amir glanced in the cracked mirror above his sink while washing his face with water he dared not drink, and paused. The silver in his beard had thinned, revealing the dark stubble beneath. Wrinkles around his mouth, etched by years of forced smiles, had softened, as if time's artist had reconsidered the strokes. His skin glowed with a vitality he hadn't seen since his 40s. Excitement warred with fear. He descended to the shop, but kept it shuttered, sitting amid the books that had been his companions. Sana called midday, her weekly check-in. The phone buzzed insistently on the counter. His hand hovered, yearning to hear her voice, to share this impossibility. But the voice commanded, "Speak to no one." He let it ring to voicemail, guilt twisting like a knife. "Forgive me, Beti," he whispered. Noon brought the second drink. The elixir surged, and this time he felt it in his bones, creaks vanishing, joints lubricating as if oiled by divine hands. Energy bubbled up. He laughed, a sound foreign in his solitude, and began reorganizing shelves with vigor he thought lost forever. By dusk, his reflection showed a man of perhaps 50, posture straighter, eyes brighter, a hint of the firebrand returning. The third day tested him deepest. 42 hours neared completion. Exhaustion clawed despite the elixir's gifts. His body rebelled against the fast, visions blurring at edges. He sat in lotus position, meditating on Aisha's memory, drawing strength from her resilience. Dawn's drink invigorated, noon sustained, and as dusk fell, he poured the final drops into the cup of shukr. The voice returned, resonant in his mind. "You have endured, chosen one. Reliance has forged you anew. The years stolen by sorrow are returned, not erased, but transformed. Use this gift for the world, not self. Heal as you have been healed." The bottle shimmered, dissolving into motes of light that swirled upward, piercing the roof and vanishing into the twilight sky. Amir stood transformed. Shirtless before the mirror, he marveled. The paunch gone, muscles toned like in his 30s, scars from old wounds mere whispers on smooth skin. He looked 35, vital and unburdened. Laughter escaped him, pure, unfiltered joy. The next morning he reopened Nur-e-Kitab. Customers flooded in, drawn by rumor or fate. "Amir Bai, is that you?" gasped old Mr. Khan, a retired teacher. "You look reborn." Amir smiled, eyes twinkling. "Perhaps I am. Come, let's find you a book that renews the soul." He never revealed the secret, but his life bloomed. He donated books to orphanages, volunteered at clinics, reconnected with Sana, flying her home for visits filled with stories and laughter. He courted a widow named Fatima, a teacher with Aisha's kindness, and found love anew. The shop became a hub, poetry readings under string lights, discussions on philosophy that spilled into the streets. Years later, on quiet nights, Amir would trace the counter's wood where the bottle stood and murmur gratitude, for he knew true renewal wasn't in reversed years, but in a heart that learned to trust, to endure, to give, and in that he became eternal.